Working in After Effects can become overwhelming rather quickly if you don't know how to both efficiently navigate and organize your projects. So this tutorial is designed to help all users, no matter the skill level, better navigate and organize their projects. I'll be working with this sample project, but feel free to follow along with your own files as these techniques are applicable to any After Effects projects. Now there are 5 methods I'm going to employ to better organize this project. And the first method involves creating folders in the project panel. Let's make sure the project panel is active by clicking in the dark gray area right here in the upper left corner of the interface. Then let's go down to the bottom of that panel and click once on the Solids folder to select it. And then click on the triangle to the left of the name to open the folder. And you can see it contains a deep cyan solid and a null object. Anytime you create new layers like a layer solid, null object, or adjustment layer, they'll be automatically added into the Solids folder. Now, if you right-click or control-click on the Solids folder, notice there's an option that's selected at the bottom of the menu. This means anytime we create another layer solid, null object, or adjustment layer, the layer will automatically be added to this selected folder as we continue working in this project. Basically, having this option means we can make any folder the Solids folder in a project. Or we could just rename the Solids folder if we wanted it to have a different name. I'll go ahead and collapse or close that folder for now since I'm fine with how it's set up. Now I want to create a folder for my different textured elements. So click once on the Use Canvas 2 JPEG file and you'll notice it's a texture. To see a more detailed view of that file, just double click it to open it in the footage panel. In this project we have 3 different textures. This canvas one, a concrete texture, and the rolled paint texture. To quickly add all 3 of these textures into a folder, I'll just hold down the Command key on the Mac or Control key on Windows, and then click once on each of the 3 textures until they're all selected. Then you can let go of the keyboard and the mouse and just click and drag on one of the selected elements and just drag them down to the folder icon and then let them go. Notice the files have been added to the folder and all you have to do is just start typing the name of the folder. I'll call this Textures. And if you want to be more consistent than I am, you could stick with the style of the first letter capitalization to match the Solids folder. But I'll leave mine lowercase as this makes no technical difference other than aesthetics. Now let's look to the right of the name column and you'll see some colorful boxes known as labels. If you click on any label, you can change its color. But if you look at the top option, you can also use this menu to select an entire layer group. So if you haven't done so already, go ahead and click on any one of these gray boxes and choose Select Label Group. Now that all the JPEG files are selected, let's repeat the process and drag these down into their own folder. And we can call this folder Backgrounds. Now, let's create a folder for our composition. But before we do that, I want you to notice how things are organized alphabetically in the project panel. If you click on the name column, you can flip the order from A to Z or Z to A. I'd like the comps folder to always be on top. So let's click and drag the composition down to the New Folder button and name it 01_comps. And when I press return, since I started with a number, that folder is now at the top of my project panel. Now, to make sure we're all on the same page, let's open the 01comps folder by clicking the triangle here on the left, and then double-click on the composition to open the comp and make sure the timeline panel is active. Notice we also have labels here in the timeline, and they function in a similar fashion to the labels in the project panel. Let's say I want my text layers to have their own unique label color. So I'll click once on layer 3, and then press Command on the Mac or Control on Windows, and then click on layer 5 to select both layers. Now click on the label color for either layer, and let's choose orange for our new label color. And now, anytime I want to select these text layers, I can just click on that label and choose Select Label Group, and there you have it. They're all selected. But what happens when you need to quickly get to something that isn't readily visible? Like, what if I wanted to change the color of this shape layer? I'd have to select and open the layer and keep twirling open triangles until I got to the parameter I was looking for. Well, there's a better way. I'll collapse layer 4 closed for now. The better way to work more quickly and keep things organized is through the use of search menus. There are 4 places you can search in After Effects: the Project Panel, the Timeline, Effects and Presets, and Help. The search feature in the Project Panel and the Timeline work a little differently, so we'll start in the Timeline. And to check out the graphic we'll be adjusting, let's press the spacebar to begin playback, and then just press it again to stop playback once the current time indicator reaches the right side of the timeline. Now, to better see the color of that line, I'll click the blank area underneath the layers in the timeline to deselect the layer. Notice the shape is kind of an orange color, so I'll select layer 4 and go up to the search menu and start typing the word color. And here you can see the colors have been isolated. To change the line, click on the orange color well and choose a rich blue color. Then click OK and deselect the layer, and now we can see it's blue. You also can have custom search options. Let's clear out the previous search by highlighting the word and pressing delete. Or you can just click the X here on the right side. Let's say I want to search for all the text layers. So I'll type the word text, and you can see anything involved with the word text has been isolated in the timeline. Also, any recently searched items will appear here in the top menu, unless it was already a preset search like color. If we keep looking down the list, I want to draw your attention to 2 other presets, and these are the missing presets. So if you have any effects that are missing or fonts that are missing, you can search for them here. And along those lines, you can actually type the word missing in the project search area to find any footage that you might need to relink. So let's say I want to have this text search set up as a shortcut all the time without having to type the word. Well, I can hover over the text and press Shift as I click on the word, and you'll see it's now listed in the bottom next to the other presets. Now, anytime I want to search for text, here, I'll just clear out the last search. I don't need to type the word text. I can just click right on the magnifying glass and click on text. Boom! There are all my text elements, no typing required. Now, it's important to note the search field functions based on what layers are selected or not selected. Since I didn't have any layers selected when I searched text, it automatically pulled up all options associated with text across all layers. But if I had just one layer selected, here, let me clear the search field with the X on the right. Now, when I use the shortcut to search for text, it only pulls up the results for the layer I had selected. Now, we've seen how to quickly select multiple layers using labels, but what if I wanted to group a bunch of layers together? To show you that workflow, I'll collapse layer 3, then select layer 2, and shift-click to select through layer 5. Now, I'm choosing these layers since they're all the layers required to create this title graphic. If we look at the parent column, you'll notice those layers are all using layer 2 as the parent layer, which is a null object we can use to reposition those layers. So I'd like to apply a drop shadow to the title, and rather than applying the effect to all the layers, I can just go up under the layer menu and choose PreCompose with all those layers selected. In the pop-up, we can leave Move All Attributes selected and rename the new composition Title PreComp, and then click OK. And you can see they've all been moved into one composition. So now I can simply go up to Effects, Perspective, and choose Drop Shadow to apply the drop shadow to the entire treatment. If you want to toggle the visibility of this effect, you can just click on the FX little button here in the upper left corner of the Effect Controls panel. And if you want to see the individual layers that make up the title again, just double click on the composition in the timeline to open the pre-composition, and there they are. Now let's go back to the Lucky Spade Presents comp so we can talk about one more method of organization: columns. Let's make sure and keep our project nice and tidy by clearing out the search field in the timeline. It's always a good idea to keep this field empty, so I'll just click the X on the right side. Let's make the project panel active by clicking once in the project panel tab. With this panel active, we can maximize the panel by either pressing the tilde key in the upper left corner of your keyboard or by double-clicking on the panel tab itself. Now, let's look at the columns we have available. We have the name column, labels, file type, size, media duration, file path, and more. If you want to see more columns, you can right-click or control-click on any of these gray areas at the top of the columns. To create a custom column, I'll go to Columns and choose Comment. Notice it added that column here on the right side. To make this column a little more accessible, I'll click on its name and then drag it towards the left. And I'll stop just to the right of the name column. You can add any kind of notes or information into this column to further organize any elements in the project panel. I want to use it to rank my favorite images, so let's open the Backgrounds folder by clicking its triangle. Let's say this Ghost Town 01 image is my first choice. In the Comments column, I'll just type the number 1. And let's say this Background 04 is my second choice. So I'll go to the Comment column and type the number 2. What's great about this is the fact that this new information is now searchable. Or I can just click on the Comment column header and it will organize the elements according to the new information. Now, even though I use numbers to organize things sequentially, it's important to note that you can type absolutely anything into the Comments column. Good, bad, yellow, green, yes, no, you get the idea. Just so we can see our project again, we can either press the tilde key again on our keyboard or double-click on the Project Panel tab again, and the panel will resize back to its original size. So, as you can see, whether you use the search field or color labels, pre-composing, folders, or columns, there's always a method available to keep your project easy to find and well organized.